SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome students to the online NPTEL course Contemporary Architecture and Design. In the previous class we discussed about the brutalist movement, which was one of the movement with of the end, the third phase, which is the last phase of modernist movement. So today we will discuss about the metabolist movement, which sometimes it connects and amalgamates with the brutalist movement, as we discussed that brutalist movement is the principle of the key features of brutalist movement is the visual, a particular kind of aesthetics which was derived from the concrete, the reinforced concrete and the robustness of the material, and it can also be with the purity of the material of other other material, for example brick for brick brutalism, and it can sometimes be replaced with stone as well. So the visual aesthetic of this brutalism sometimes blend with the metabolist principle, because metabolism started with the key feature of metabolism is the spatial arrangement, the how different spaces of a building will be arranged. That is what defines metabolism. So the metabolism, we will discuss how what is the criteria of metabolism and how a building falls under a metabolist movement with its spatial arrangement, and also there is other requirement like it has to be modular, it can be changed. So this ethics or the design principle which comes from metabolism can also be blended with the brutalist movement. So sometimes it got blended. For example, this Paul Rudolph's Yale Art and Architecture School, which we were discussing in the previous class in brutalism, where we are seeing from outside the robust services were there, which is we will discuss how it was a fusion of brutalism and metabolism. But in some cases a building can be only within a metabolist movement, so that can also happen. So there are many examples for that as well. And as brutalism, metabolism is also a movement where it is only started in it's only in architecture, because the functional requirement and the principle of arrangement of space is the key feature of this metabolist movement. So that is what makes the metabolist movement, that is what the stylistic feature of the metabolist movement. So it cannot be in art and cannot be in design, but there is a connection with industrial design. How because the concept of metabolism, few concepts of metabolism was there in the industrial design in the previous era, and we were also discussing that a few of the brutalist movement can also be classified under the critical regionalist movement. And for example, Dhaka Parliament building, which is designed by Louis I. Kahn. So he imbibed this material of bamboo. So one of the features of brutalism was the formwork of the concrete formwork will give a texture of the because of the exposed concrete without being plaster. So in that case the formwork was bamboo, and then the water and other elements and the arches were taken from this Indian subcontinent's and history. So those were there. So that's why it can be within a different architecture movement, which is critical regionalism, which is opposite to internationalist movement, which talks about no context in the building. So it can also be, so that is a postmodern building. So all these cases, so which happened after this World War, many of this movement which was there in the third phase, which is ultra modern or late modern, can also be was translated into the postmodern movement, few of these features. And similarly, metabolism did not influence architecture, design and art directly, but few of the metabolist style was later carried on in the postmodern style, like high tech, where the exposing the services and other elements become an aesthetic feature. So that went in the industrial and automobile design. So there was a connection. So but not directly the metabolism movement. So if we look at the timeline, so we will see that this brutalism and metabolism is at the end of modernism, and after that postmodernism started. So these tensile, brutalism and metabolism is in between modernism and postmodernism, and many of these features, like we have also seen that shell structures, the designer like Calatrava, they've used shell structure in the postmodern building as well. So as the brutalism and metabolism styles were also used in few of the postmodern movement. So this is one of the example of metabolism, and which also falls under brutalism, designed by Louis Kahn, Richard Medical Lab. We will discuss about this in detail. So if we look at the architectural features, so this flourished between 1950s and 1970s, which is on the same timeline of brutalism. So they evolved together in parallelly. So it is a post-World War architecture style, and the center of this movement was Japan. So many of this post-World War architecture style, if we look at in the phase 3, so these are all post-World War architecture styles. So this tensile and shell and brutalism, metabolism, these are all post-World War architecture style, and after that these are almost in starting into the 1950s to 70s. So these are the post-World War architecture style, and in these cases, during the World War there was a crisis in the society, that the economic crisis was there and the social crisis were there. There was a war going on. That's why the movement of these movements, functionalism and other internationalist movement, was during the World War, and so their approach towards architecture was quite different, and then post-World War architecture was very different because of the social and socio-cultural context was very different from this World War era, and the money was and the financial structure was different, and the requirement was very different. So also we have seen in the international tensile and shell structure, we have seen Keizo Tange's work in Japan, and so Japan also started coming into the limelight in this post-World War movement. Before the World War and during the World War, all of this movement was mostly in Europe and USA, but right now, after this post-World War movement, after World War there was this turmoil situation, and after that, when then this situation was getting overcome and with the by the different countries, and then it started flourishing all over the world. It's not just confined into the Europe and USA. And why Japan? Because in metabolism in Japan, because post this after World War II, Japan got devastated. Two of the cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, was devastated by the atomic bomb blast, and the rest of the country is also in a turmoil situation. And that's why the need of the Japan was a residential, quick emergence of a residential and other infrastructure building in urban housing, and that's why a requirement of making a quick design and quick construction process, which can be iterated based on the need of the people. So when one construction is done, and if it is not functioning, it should not be demolished. So there was should be a provision of changing it, iterating it without creating much without investing, without losing much financial element, and destroying the building. So the building can be moldable and based on the requirement. So that was one need, and quick construction was another need. So that's why the metabolist architect concern themselves with the housing of large population while preserving the autonomy of the individuality in the modern world. So the individuality of this people has to be catered to. That's why so if there is a voice of customer, the customer need is there in the design, so there was less chance of this design of becoming the design to be a failure. So this was not an autocratic design by an architect. So architect is involving the user's opinion or the voice of customer into the design. The process of design is which we have talked about meta design in industrial design when George Nelson was creating this process. So this is also a similar process where participatory approach of participation of all the stakeholders, especially the end users, were imbibed into the design. So this is also called the process of co-design, where designers and the user, they design together. That's why their voice and will be there in the design. So how the voice is there? So a designer will create some module or some particular element of design, and users are allowed to change the design in some parts. So together the holistic image of this design will be a manifestation of designer's element as well as the user's element. So together this will create the image of a design. So it's not just one particular only the designer is designing a whole thing, and then it is nothing can be added and nothing can be subtracted. So this concept was also there. We were discussing when George Nelson was designing the office cubicles as well as the storage wall. When George Nelson is designing the storage wall, he is designing the module. Now one module can have many storage of small amount, and another module can have larger and few storage, and there can be many other element of mixture of different kind of storage. Now these are one different modules which is he is designing, module A, module B, or some other numbering can be done. Now based on this wall area, a user can have many numbers of module, and they can have the series according to their need. So this can come here, this can come there, and they can add more, they can delete few, and same thing can happen in the so this is the concept which George Nelson have have told in Tomorrow's House, which has been discussed earlier in the previous internationalist movement and the corresponding design movement in the internationalism. But here this concept which was there in the industrial design level has been translated into the city level and building level. So it even so in the building level definitely it got translated, and it also got translated in the city planning level. So in these so the same concept of modularity and the organic growth, one can be added, and it can organically grow in a different direction, because the storage wall is not a fixed does not have a fixed dimension. It can be added. It can also be added on top based on the height of this height of this building. So that was the concept of contemporary storage wall, which also we see the kitchen cabinets are designed based on the similar concept. So this concept has been translated into the architecture by this Japanese metabolist architects. So the process of metabolism, why this term metabolism came? So metabolism came from the way of living organism, how they maintain the life, especially the plants. So if we look at the plants and the architect got inspired from this process of biological growth, and this concept is called the servant and served. So in the architecture they have divided two spaces. One is servant spaces and another is served spaces. So in plant also they have conceptually divided into two spaces. So what happens in the plant? So plants root and stem according to them as the servant spaces. So they, what do they serve? So they collect the nutrition and the water and the nutrient raw elements and the water from the soil, and then they transfer this through the stem to the canopy or the body of the plant. Now the canopy of the plant gets all this nutrition, and then they do the photosynthesis and transfer the nutrition of the food in the total body of this plant. So this is acting as a servicing and the transferring elements, or the transfer the transportation of different elements. So in this architecture, similarly this plumbing lines, sewer lines, they transport different elements. So plumbing line supply the water, and sewer line takes the solid waste and transfer it away from this building. Similarly, also the staircase, they serve for this vertical transportation of people from one floor to the other, and the corridors. So these are the services, and of course the electricity lines. So these electricity shafts and this plumbing and sewer shafts, those are the servant or the service course, and the rest of the things like the rooms and the conference hall are the other classrooms of a departmental building, or there is in the residential building bedrooms or living cum dining, not kitchen, and other rooms will be the served spaces where people will live and do the other functions. So so they have divided the servant and served into two different functions, and here it is already, it's not that they have divided because it's already there, but they designed these two into different way. So earlier, if you look at the other examples of the building, for example, if you look at Roby House or the Lakeshore Drive apartment, which is designed by Van der Rohe, which is just a cube, and you will not see this servant spaces or the staircases and other spaces which is serving the building from outside. Even if you look at the Villa Savoy, you will not see the servant spaces from outside, so it will be a form. Form was more important holistically, but here in this metabolism, servant spaces and served spaces were designed in a different way, and they are visually equally important. So all the servant spaces from outside of the building, the servant spaces or the skeletal structure and the services will be visible, and from outside you will make out that these are the areas where the servant spaces are there. The level changing devices, for example, staircases and lift lobbies, lifts are there, or the vertical services shafts are there, and that creates a visual element. So that was visually that also that's not subdued, or that does not come into the background, that also comes as a focal point. So here in the term this metabolism, first internationally acclaimed during the SIAM Congress International de Architecture Moderne, in English International Congress of Modern Architecture, in 1959, almost in the between of 1950s and in the end of 1950s. In 1970s World Exposition, which happened in Japan, Osaka, this exposition was designed according to the metabolist style. So this master plan, or the planning of the arrangement of this symposium was done by Kenzo Tange, and the pavilions were designed by Kisho Kurokawa and Kiyonori Kikutake, who are also metabolist architect and designer. They have designed this pavilions. Similarly, we have seen this in World Exposition. There was Chicago movement, Art Nouveau movement. Many of the movements come from this exposition, and this metabolist movement came from this Japan Osaka's World Exposition in 1970s. So one of the example which in the city level, which was marine city concept, it's given by Kiyonori Kikutake. So this was only a concept, it was not built, but this concept was again coming from this Japan's need of quick infrastructure and hosting larger population in a particular small area. So as it got devastated after the post-war situation. So Kikutake have envision that it can also flow on the water. On the water there can be a concept of a city, but due to the other construction issues on the water, earthquake and other disaster, because of this disaster, it was just a concept, but it was from a metabolist aspect. So, and this concept was, we have already designed Marina City. The concept of Marina City has been translated here in the Marine City concept of Japan. Marina City was designed in Chicago, and which comes under the monolithic movement, because in the Marina City the concept of design was creating twin cylinders. It was not creating servant and served spaces in a different way. But if you look at the design on the plan, if you remember that this has a service core which contains all the services, the level changing devices or the lift lobbies, and the shafts which will contain the plumbing and sewer line and electricity line in the center, and from outside there's this served spaces, or those rooms were there from the outside, and that creates the cylinder. So the same concept was translated here, and what he is doing in the Marine City here, this is more exaggerated, because in some area there was a punctuation and you see this service core, and from outside this rooms will be added. So sometimes it is just the service core is visible and the room will be added. So if there is more need, and then the room will be added over here as well, and it can grow. And these cities are connected with this skyline, so you can see this is connected with the service core to service core is connected. That's why there's a punctuation. And also this service core, this or this horizontal member will be also visually seen from outside, and many of the time the service core will be just without the cladding. So that's why the servant and served spaces will be interlocked with each other, service cores, and now based on this need of the user, it can be so all these elements are modular. So this can be conceptualized as a modular unit, and then can be joined, or it can also be removed. But here in the Marina City, this concept was not there. They can join to, or this modular concept was not there, because the Marine City is coming from a totally visual perspective of creating cylinder, but this concept of Marina City is coming from a concept of creating cylinders. But Marine City is coming from a concept of a metabolism, where services will be designed, and then served spaces will be fitted into according to the modular need. So he is using this modular elements to create different change, and that will be totally based on the user's requirement. When the user feel like creating more, there is a need from the user side, it will be created. So this is not a design which is fixed, so it can be added, it can be subtracted, and this is dynamic. So there was a conceptual difference between these two, but the concept came from the Marina City. Now from plan, it looks like there is so this is a floating on water, and these service cores are designed, and then this service cores creates a common space, and these neighborhood level can be joined as many other neighborhood, and it can create a city, and it can grow. And now this is not just one module where there is a services. So if you consider this, the servant and served is different. So in this module, servant is the service core, and served spaces are the modules around this. So this is only the service core is visible. Now if you consider this, the servant space is this, and these are the modules. So modularity is changing. So here the modularity is the smaller apartments. So here the modular is 1 or 2 floating platforms. These are the module, and now you add more module. It can be you can add another module over here, or you can subtract one module from here, and it can grow organically. So this is the modularity is added in a different concept. So totally in this city will look like this, and many other another row can be added. So this is a fluid design. So Kiyonori Kukitake is also the founder of Japanese Metabolism group of architects. So he is one of the pioneer, and the modular design and the concept of serve spaces provides more energy efficiency, because there was no requirement to change the services, because that will be designed first, and this is more sustainable because you don't need to demolish the building, you just change the served spaces according to the need of the user, and there's a future expansion is very easy, and that the design concept is evolved from the future perspective of future expansion and as well as alteration without destroying the design. Now another example of in a building level is a Nagakin capsule tower, which is designed in 1972 by Kisho Kurokawa, who was also part of this pavilion in the 1970s exposition. So here in this building level, same concept is designed. So this is the service core, which is visible and has a different color into it, and this is protruding out from this served spaces. So here in the you can see, so this has a visual element, and because of this arrangement, which is very dynamic arrangement of this different module, you can visually think that there is a steam inside this, and which is protruding out. So this there's an axis which is also visually protruding out, is having a lot of emphasis, because other form is very dynamic and does not have a particular strong facade. So this is very fluid, but the strong thing is the axis. So the axis is getting a very important visual attention in the design. The two axes are there, so these two axes are getting a visual attention. That's why the services are has a visual importance in this design. So here also the prefabricated capsules were manufactured by shipping container manufacturer. So you can see, so it looks like a shipping container, but this is not designed from a shipping container which has a toxic element. That's why it's designed from a shipping containers by shipping containers manufacturer, and looks like a shipping container but not a reuse of a shipping container. And this these are the modular elements, and it can be combined. Two modules can be combined, and it can be reoriented in different directions. So in this is oriented in this direction, this is oriented in the other direction from the same service core based on the requirements. So their design requirement also changes based on the changes, and that is getting reflected in the design. So it's not a fixed design, and it changes. And from inside, if you look at, so this has a within a very small space and incorporating industrial design and other elements. So these are all industrial design interventions based on these. This interior is fitted within a very small space of a small livable space. All these and all these amenities are there in a very small space without losing the lifestyle of a city life. It got constructed within 1 month because of this modularity, and it is definitely fluid, so it can be translated. So 140 modular capsules like habitable units were plugged into 2 service cores. So this if we look at this plan, so this is the service core with the staircase and lift lobby together, and this ducts with the other services which can be there from within. So here from this there can be different arrangements. So these arrangements are shown in different way. So it can be an arrangement in this direction, it can be an arrangement in this direction. If 2 are there, so this can create a symmetry, or you can lose the symmetry and creating different way. So this can be arranged in vertical direction as well as in this direction from the similar way of service core. And that's why so this design is totally dependent on the how you want to use the module, and it can be reoriented, and this is fluid. and the way of adding the module is shown here, and this is designed as we were saying, this is designed by a shipping container manufacturer, and it can be snap fitted into the service core. And this is one element of the design, and you can see how much industrial design level treatment was there within the building. So this toilet also has a lot of facility in a very small space, and this living area is totally imbibed with the combination with the industrial design and architecture. Another example of a little larger scale is Yamanashi Press Center, Press and Broadcasting Center, which is designed in 1961 at Kofu, again in Japan, by Kenzo Tange himself. So here there are 16, this is the office space of the 3 different companies are there, and then companies' need can also change. So a company might want to increase their office spaces, might also sell their office spaces. And that's why there's a dynamic use of need of requirement was catered to. And then there is a common service course which has 16 reinforced concrete 5-meter dia cores, which are these, which contains the toilets, elevators and staircases, which all are servant spaces. These are designed, these are fixed, and then different floors were added in different levels to create these are the service spaces. So from outside, the servant spaces has a lot of visual emphasis because they are not rectilinear. The rest of the building is rectilinear, and this has a robust cylindrical element. So if this style of design from rectilinear to cylindrical it changes, then cylinder will also have an emphasis. If this becomes a rectilinear and short, and if you delete these chunks and it becomes rectilinear, so the emphasis, visual emphasis will be diluted, because this is then it will blend with the servant spaces, because this is circular and cylindrical, so it has its own visual importance. So if you look at the design, so these designs, so here another floor can be added if required. So here there's also the structural elements are there, so that the floor can be added, so if required. So this design is also fluid, and from inside, if you look at the section, it also has a lot of visual emphasis, because it can be seen from outside. This robust pillars can be seen from outside, and this looks like this servant spaces are the structural and the strong elements which are holding the canopy, which is holding the served spaces like a tree, and this is becoming the stem of the tree, and then the canopy is floating and it's holding that. And the flexibility of served spaces, the served spaces are flexible and that are dynamic, and servant spaces are the fixed spaces, and structurally independent concrete floor plates are there. So as these spaces these are structurally independent, another module can be taken and just added here in the as a floor plate, because these are structurally independent, which is there in the Nagakin capsule tower as well. That's why after the creation in 1961, in 3 stages this got altered. So if this was a fixed design, this could have been demolished or managed within the building, and because this was the servant and served spaces were changed, and because of this design differently, and the concept of modularity was added, that's why it was successfully altered based on the change of requirement. Another example of the similar concept was a press and broadcasting tower of Shizuoka, which is again designed by Kenzo Tange in Tokyo, the capital of Japan. Here also you can easily understand that this is the service servant spaces, which is a cylindrical reinforced concrete core, and the core is reinforced concrete, but what we are seeing is the formwork. We discussed the formwork, that the concrete formwork which they used to take out, and the mark will be there in the brutalist movement, but here the formwork was left, and it looks like a cladding around the concrete reinforced concrete structure. So we are seeing the formwork which was designed properly and left like that. And here as well, another module can be added, and it is a dynamic design. And the served spaces are the cantilever steel and glass box like office spaces. So here we see a lot of steel, a lot of glass, so it looks fragile, and this service core looks visually heavy. So servant always looks visually heavy, and served spaces look visually fragile. In metabolism, in many of the other designs, so served spaces will be designed in a very fragile way, and they will be cantilever, and they will look visually lightweight, and the served spaces, servant spaces will look visually robust. So that was also happening in the Yamanashi Press Center. So the servant spaces are looking visually robust, and you are not seeing any fenestration from here, but here it's like smaller plates, and a lot of vertical lines are there, and they are hanging, and they're just they looks like they're floating, and they're just hanging from this served spaces. So that looks very lightweight. So similar things are happening over here as well. So if we look at, so there are two different modules, one side is like this and another side it's here, and it is designed in a very small space. So if you look at the footprint of the building, it is very small. So that was also the need of Japan. So within a very small space, the infrastructure has to be developed. That's why in the they started blending industrial design and architecture, which we have seen in the Nagakin Capsule Tower. And that's why they could not go for a traditional construction. They had to think differently, and went to a shipping container manufacturer and started designing the building by them. So another example of metabolism is by the famous architect Louis I. Kahn in Richard Medical Lab in Pennsylvania. This image we were showing in the timeline. So here we can, from just looking at the building, we can see what is the servant spaces and what is the served spaces. So these are visually heavy core servant or the service cores, so which we can just looking at the building we can make out. So these are the lift and staircases and plumbing lines and electricity lines are within that. So here we can see, after this level, this is all after this is a multi room. So after this level, this is all void. So this is intentionally protruded, and we can also see from outside this facades are just protruded on top. So this is also adding extra volume, is adding to towards this robustness and the visual emphasis. So these are actually the visual creating a visual emphasis and the focal point of this of this building. And if we look at the served spaces, there are a lot of fenestration, and this looks lightweight because the entrance is here and this cantilever. These all this element is hanging from this served spaces. So all over this is all cantilever. Only this service cores are coming down in the to the ground, and this visually looks like this is taking the load of this building. So this is a breakthrough building for Kahn, and this design saw the first clear articulation of servant spaces and served spaces, which is designed by Louis I. Kahn, and this has been connoted by Robert McCarthy, and he said that this is one of the important building of metabolist era. So servant spaces are the independent structures, shafts for ventilation as well as stairways, and these shafts are also for the ventilation. So there is a stack effect, and this water, if the wind goes from top and if there is a void from this room, so because of this motion of the wind, so we know that because of the Venturi effect, so there will be decrease of wind pressure. Because of the decrease of wind pressure, this wind will be sucked from this void, and from this room all this wind will automatically go, and it will the ventilation will be easy, and without so the load of ventilation, mechanical load, the electrical load will be less. So it is happening automatically if the wind flows from top, and we all know that wind on top is much the velocity of the wind on top is higher than the ground, because in the ground there are a lot of barriers, and the trees are there. On top the wind velocity is much more, so if the velocity increases, the pressure will decrease, and it will suck the wind from this rooms. So that is also a servant spaces, because this is serving the building as a cooling and ventilation, instead of just supplying electricity. This is another way of services, so that is also added as a servant spaces, which is seen from outside. And served spaces are the laboratory, because there is a lab, and the laboratory spaces and other classrooms and other elements were served spaces. So here if we look at, so all these are the air intake ducts which will be visible from outside. So this is a staircase tower, and this one are the staircase towers, and this is the services towers from plumbing and electricity lines. These all elements are added around the building, and only this is the served spaces, and services are around the facade, and that creates the visual of this building. And from outside we see more of the services, because volume wise the servant spaces are much lesser, so only these are the volume of the servant spaces. So that creates and services spaces, the laboratory areas volume wise it was much more, but servant spaces were covering the served spaces. That's why we are seeing the served spaces around the building. So from outside all the served spaces were outside, that was intentionally kept and shown from outside, so that the servant spaces are creating as a visual, as used as a visual element. Otherwise in the previous connotation, the servant spaces and the lift lobbies and other things will be inside, so that nobody can see it, and from outside the only the served spaces will be visible. And the connotation was only the served spaces was earlier it was thought that served spaces look beautiful from outside, but staircases and shafts does not look good. But here in metabolist architects broke the connotation, and they used servant spaces as aesthetic elements. So similar in the metabolist concept, there was a Tokyo Bay master plan was designed in 1960s, and there were many concepts designed for the Tokyo Bay master plan. It was in the same line of the marine city, and on the lagoon there has to be in this bay there has to be a city which has to be developed. So here in this Kenzo Tange's concept, which is a repetitive 9-kilometer module in a linear bay city. So this is the line, this is the 9-kilometer module which he is designing, and this is the services. All the services, roads or the infrastructure will be in this axis, and that is the service, the servant core, and this will be the services which can grow like algae on the water. So this is again coming from a concept of organic metabolism. So all this nutrition of this algae will come from here, and it will grow like this on the city. So these also service cores will have the infrastructure, and from here it can be added, it can be deleted, and it can grow organically from this particular 9-kilometer module of service core. Now another concept was definitely the marine city itself, which was designed on this, for the same thing, and another concept which is designed for a city design, because after destruction of major cities of Japan, and they started making the concept of cities which can have a very small footprint and can grow organically with the concept of servant and served. So this is a space city. This is also just a concept by Kisho Kurokawa. He gave this concept of this space city. This was just a conceptual plan, and then there will be this only these towers which will have this service course, and from here in this space this served spaces will grow from here organically. So this was not on the water, but this was on the land, the way the service course will be there, and from there this organically this built forms will grow, and they can even merge with two service cores for the structural stability, and that's how the city will grow on the sky. So this is like a cruciform module, and stacked around and this modules will be stacked around this service course. Now we were talking about this World Exposition of 1970s Osaka, which was Kisho Kurokawa and Kikutake have designed this pavilion, and Kenzo Tange was given the master plan. So in the pavilion also this similar concept was designed in a smaller level, so it was just a pavilion. So this was the service course, and this pavilions are hung around this service course, and also the modularity concept of modularity was added in the space frame of this service course in some of the pavilions. So the pavilion had the pure concept of metabolism, where this around this service core, which is the vertical lift and other staircases were there, and then served spaces were there, and just the modular concept was also added in some of the pavilion, where it looks like extraterrestrial futuristic space frame, which can be which looks like it can grow in any direction. So it's not a fixed particular form which was flourished in the monolithic and tensile shell, where there will be a particular perceivable form. So it looks like it can grow and in any direction in organically. So that that concept of metabolism was there in this pavilion, but there's no surveillance served spaces concept was there in this pavilion. So the impact of metabolism got carried forward in the later phases in the architectural design, in high-tech architecture, which is in postmodern movement. We'll discuss that in the postmodernist when we'll discuss postmodernism. So here in Pompidou Center, which is a high-tech design in 1977, which is just in the verge of emergence of postmodernism, is designed by Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers in Paris. So all this building, the functional elements are there within the building, but from outside, all what you are seeing in the building facade is the services of the building. So all the services, pipelines, and they have different colors for each and different pipelines are visible from the outside, and that is the aesthetics, and that is the envelope of the building. So served spaces aesthetics becomes important in this building. So similarly, and in the other building in London, Lloyd's building, Richard Rogers, the same architect who designed Pompidou Center with the Renzo Piano, used the same concept, and this falls under high-tech architecture. But all the services and this spaces like staircases, lift rooms, and then pipelines, these are all pipelines which is visible from outside, and that creates the aesthetics and style of this building. Next class we will discuss the neo-brutalist movement, where the metabolism and brutalism fuses with each other, with examples of Indian architecture, and where many of the Indian architects and or the foreign architects who design in India have used this particular architectural movement in their design.